Well, very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us, for those here in person and those online, with Ambassador Federico Villegas, the President of the Human Rights Council for 2022, for the 16th cycle of the Human Rights Council. Before we get into the press conference, I just wanted to alert you to the information which we have for you is the A to Z guide and the list of high-level segment speakers, as well as a list of draft resolutions that have been announced at a public meeting last week, along with the program of work, which is still a moving target. So all this information I will be sharing with you momentarily. For those of you online, I realize I haven't pushed the button yet, but you will have that before you in your email in a few minutes. In the meantime, I'll turn over to Ambassador Villegas for his opening remarks, and then to you for your questions. So, Ambassador.
Thank you, Rolando, and it's a pleasure to keep up that tradition of meeting with you before each session of the Council. And of course, we will keep you up to speed on everything that is happening in the next session. Before I get into the details, allow me to just share a little bit about myself. I'm the permanent representative of Argentina in Geneva since June 2020. I came from Mozambique, where I was 4 years. I opened the Argentine embassy in Mozambique, and I'm a career diplomat, a lawyer, and I was twice Director General of Human Rights. I'm specialized in this issue. And of course, it's a very great honor for me to be president of the Human Rights Council, and especially to be here in this library, because 25 years ago, I was here as a junior diplomat, and this was the heart of the Palais. There was no WhatsApp diplomacy. We didn't even have laptops. And so here in this library, we had desktops, and desktops for the delegates to write our speeches and our ambassadors' speeches. So for me, it's always special to come back to the library, and it's a pleasure to be with you, especially because Argentina is a country that has human rights in our DNA since we came back from democracy after a very tragic recent history of violations of human rights. And the mothers and grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo of Argentina used to come here to denounce these disappearances, and they came here to this Palais 30 years after that to be part of the Argentine delegation to approve the International Convention against the enforced disappearance of persons. So it is a success story of a tragic experience. And of course, that experience of Argentina will be part of my experience that I will try to share as president. The pandemic, of course, is essential. It's part of our job, but also of the next session. And it has an impact in modalities and in substance. In modalities, of course, despite the recent relaxations of Switzerland, UNOC decided to keep some restrictions in the Palais des Nations. So that doesn't mean we will not work. On the contrary, if you look at 2021, we were one of the bodies that had the highest amount of work. We approved over 175 resolutions. We had 5 special sessions, and we kept fully the program of work as if we had a normal year. It has been recognized by the international community, while other organizations and bodies decided to stop and postpone all activities. But the next session is good news, because we will have a session closer to 2019 than to 2020 and 21. We will have for the first time 5 full weeks, first time ever in the Council, 5 full weeks session. We will be in room 19 with some spillover capacity in room 20. This is just because of the restrictions of capacity of people in a room. So room 19 has a slightly bigger capacity, and that is why we are going there. And you will have the detail. On the substance, of course, the pandemic has an impact everywhere, and the Council is no exception. We will have 3 panels that address the pandemic: technical assistance on 7th of March, access to vaccines on 10th of March, public policy on 22nd of March. Then we will have panels on other themes. the annual high-level panel discussion on promoting the mainstreaming of human rights throughout the United Nations system. I invite you to see this panel. It's very important, very high level. It's going to be the afternoon of opening day, 20th of February. We'll have a panel on rights of the child, 9th of March, rights of persons with disabilities, 14th of March, racial discrimination and xenophobia, another very important issue that the Council addresses, on the 25th of March. Other themes, this is the hub of progressive development of human rights all over the world. This Council is the place where progressive development of human rights is done. So every session, we have many themes. Just to mention some of the themes, over 40 in this session: women's rights, environment and climate change, safety of journalists and human rights defenders, right to food and housing, right to privacy, rights of older persons, rights of persons with albinism, and many others. On country situations, of course, country situation is another of our endeavors. We will have in this next session approximately 50 country situations: Afghanistan, Belarus, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Ethiopia, Iran, Libya, Myanmar, Palestine and other occupied Arab territories, South Sudan, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and many others. Of course, reports and experts are the heart of the Council. More than 100 reports will be presented. More than 30 experts and groups will be having their presentation and dialogues. And the high-level segment is going to be quite a challenge for the Palais because of the renovations and the restrictions, but I think everybody is happy to be back with the in-person multilateral diplomacy. And what better opportunity than a high-level segment that we already have 139 high-level representatives confirmed for the high-level segment that starts next Monday, and 74 of them in person in Geneva. That's something that everybody is very excited, very high-level people next week. And from the UN system, confirmed participation in person in Geneva, the Secretary General of the United Nations, the President of the General Assembly, of course, the High Commissioner of Human Rights, Dr. Tedros, the Secretary General of UNCTAD, and many more other officials. At the end of the session, we will be taking action on a series of draft resolutions. 33 have been submitted so far, but more may come. And of course, there is a prerogative of states to raise any issue they want, either tabling resolutions or addressing in debates and high-level segments. Finally, on the housekeeping, you have materials to help you. This, I recommend this, the very nice done, the A to Z on the next session, and of course, the list and the timely updates and the social media. To wrap up, we will have a very jam-packed days ahead. It will be a challenge for the workload and the conditions, but we must do this. We have to remember always in historical perspective what we are doing here in the Council. This is the only multilateral body that is able to address the human rights situation of every single country all over the world. It's the only multilateral body that addresses serious situations of violations of human rights. And the third role, which is very important, sometimes not so visible, it is the heart of the progressive development of new norms and standards of human rights that will benefit future generations to have a better life than present and past generations in the respect of rights. So thank you very much, and very open to questions. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Before I turn over to just to mention, the high-level segment list is still a moving target. The numbers are actually, I'm told, that have even increased further. So now we even have more than 140. So that is, and please be mindful of that. And I would double check that list up until the last hour. And there is a note to correspondence I failed to mention at the onset that was shared with you on some of the modalities that the President hinted towards in terms of your access to the meetings. And then, of course, lastly is the background press release you should have received early this morning in French and English. So without further ado, over to you. I think Christian in the room on the left, please.
Good morning. It's Christiana with the German press agency. I wonder what you have heard from Madame Bachelet on the Xinjiang report. Is that going to come out and being discussed at this meeting? And I have a question on Ukraine too. What can the Council do to deflect tension in Ukraine? Thank you.
One to one?
Yes, one by one.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Regarding the report of Madame Bachelet, I haven't seen it, and we don't know when it's going to be presented. If it's going to be discussed at the session, we are waiting, and any country always during the session has the possibility of raising any issue, but also any NGO has the possibility of raising any issue, and any special rapporteur has the freedom of expression of raising any issue. But regarding that, you will have to ask the office of Madame Bachelet. Regarding Ukraine, the situation of Ukraine has been in the Council as a special attention since 2014. We will have an interactive dialogue on the situation of Ukraine following a presentation of the High Commissioner on Ukraine on the 29th of March. In addition, states, of course, and NGOs, because this is important, NGOs will be back in the Palais, in the room, being able to express their opinions, but also through video statements. We'll have states and NGOs several opportunities to raise the situation in Ukraine, as early as the high-level segment at the start of the session, and then again under our general debate on country situations. We have a general debate on country situations, which is item 4, and that's another opportunity. We have had resolution extending the mandate of the Office of the High Commissioner on Ukraine that have been passed regularly on a yearly basis since 2014. The last one was 4722, that was passed in July 2021, last year. And the Council heard the latest update on Ukraine on December 2021. And regarding what might do or not the Council, the procedures are there, the tools are there. In general, when something is not in the program approved in the organizational meeting, there usually, and we have many cases of both examples, we have either special sessions or urgent debates. The difference is a special session is when the Council is not in session. Once the Council is in session from next Monday, you cannot have a special session within a session, so we change to another tool, which is urgent debate. We had the most recent, and I'm sure you are very much aware, in 2020, Belarus was an urgent debate, and the killing of George Floyd was also an urgent debate. Thank you. But any state can raise and decide to propose whatever they may feel suitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Maybe we'll take just one more in the room before we go online. So Antonio from Spanish News Agency.
Good morning. As you are a representative of Latin America, I'm going to ask about Nicaragua and Venezuela. What do you expect from these debates? Is there going to be resolutions after the debates? And do you think with more presential meetings this time, more things are gonna be done in this session in comparison with last year? Thank you. I ask you in Spanish. ¿Cree que en una reunión con más presencia física se pueden conseguir más cosas que en los 2 años anteriores.
Maybe just for the benefit of non-Spanish speakers, you say, will the in-person presence maybe ameliorate or make it the discussions more sharp?
I apologize for my hearing and thank you for your questions. First, well, Nicaragua and Venezuela are among the country situations that we have mentioned before, and they both have resolutions on a yearly basis in the Council. And of course, any state, we will have reports on both countries, and any state has the possibility of raising and making a proposal to have a resolution on Nicaragua or Venezuela. So we will see as the dynamic of the Council comes, but there are 2 countries that are of a special attention of the Council, and that is why they have the resolutions also. So I expect that those 2 countries will be addressed in some way during the session and during the year. On the presence, of course, definitely, there is no doubt that the in-person is another kind of multilateral diplomacy. Virtuality has some limits, has many advantages, but has some limits. And it's precisely what I intend with the presidency. The in-person allows mutual understanding of commonalities and differences in conversations, in constructive engagement, in the coffee or in the informal consultations. Imagine we had last year informal consultations online. That was very traumatic for delegations, for NGOs, for everybody. Now we will be able to go back to rooms like we used to, with people talking, expressing their views, sharing paragraphs, wording, and suggesting changes to get a consensus. That is something that is absolutely unavoidable as a benefit for multilateral diplomacy. So I very much look forward to that game changer for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. We have another question online. Well, now we have a question online, I should say, from Jamil Shad. If we could, there you go. Jamil, go ahead.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Jamil Shad, Ambassador. I'm a journalist from Brazil. My question, first regarding Ukraine once again. We saw the other day the ambassador from the United States sending a letter to Mrs. Bachelet on the issue with some claims. I would like to ask, have you also received any appeals or any requests by the Western group, by the EU or by the US in the same or similar pattern as Madame Bachelet has received? That's the first question. Second, it's maybe Rolando has already dealt with, but I came in a little bit late. The access to journalists at the Palais, at the room. If NGOs are back, it is more than fair that the press is back as well. Otherwise, I don't have to explain you know. But anyway, we'd like to make it clear that this is very important for us, but also for the principle that you represent. Thank you.
Thank you. On the question on Ukraine, of course, the situation has triggered international attention. It's obvious. I read that letter of the ambassador, but no, the presidency has not received any request from any state regarding a special tool or idea to be before the council on this situation. And on access to journalists, in substance, of course, we all want journalists back in the Palais, and he will explain the modalities. Thank you.
Of course, I think, Jamil, you know well, my priority is to help you all in your reporting. And with that said, we have guaranteed quite a lot of space inside the room. The only real big challenge will be the opening day. We will have to limit our numbers in the room because we have lots of high-level delegations, including from the Secretary General, the President of the General Assembly. But rest assured, we will allot quite a number of seats inside the room for the written press, also for the audiovisual media. We also have a gallery upstairs. We do everything we can. And of course, you'll be sharing the space as you have in the past with NGOs who were encouraging their in-person participation, as well as the ambassador said. So yes, do look at the note to correspondence that was issued. I think it was yesterday, which spells out these details. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach me or Matt or Pascal. Okay, we have a question now from Laurent Sierra, Swiss News Agency. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Laurent.
thank you, Rolando. Thank you, Ambassador, for the briefing. Another question on Ukraine, because yeah, we can see now that it's going to be quite central in the session as well. So do you fear that it might have such an heavy weight in the discussion that it might overshadow the impact on other topics, other country situations? Thank you.
Well, that's up to the states. That's up to the states, how they address the issue, in which opportunity, in which tone. We always want a constructive dialogue, constructive atmosphere to understand each other. And no matter how difficult a situation is, we always have to have the ability to speak among ourselves and share our arguments. And the Council gives the opportunity for that. And we have many issues and many country situations, over 50 I mentioned. So it will be up to the member states to put an atmosphere that is balanced and allows the Council to work fully in its agenda. And I will just guide that debate with the other vice chairs. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question. First, Jamie Keaton from Associated Press in the room.
I'll behave. Hello, sir. I'm Jamie from Associated Press. My question is also about Ukraine and Russia. First, a couple of housekeeping items. I see that Sergei Lavrov is scheduled to come on March 1st. I assume that it's because it's not mentioned video message that he will be here in person. That's the plan, right? Okay. I also noticed that I don't see anyone from Ukraine planned to come for a high level segment. Is that still in consideration? And then I have another quick question.
First question, so far, Minister Lavrov is scheduled exactly on March 1st in person so far. This is up to 22nd of February, the list. And honestly, let's see, if you don't see Ukraine, I'm sure this is a very dynamic list that every 4 or 5 hours changes. And of course, the lift of restrictions, I have to say, this is for Ukraine or for anybody else. The lift of restrictions just recently in Switzerland is a game changer also for countries to decide to come or not. That is why sometimes we don't have confirmation and it's moving all the time in person video statements because of the lift of restrictions, certificates, etc. Thank you.
Maybe just to note, Jamie, it's possible up until the 11th hour for any state to add their name to that list. So, of course, as I mentioned, just please take a look at that moving target. Thanks. Go ahead, Jamie.
Another question is, I also noticed that Ukraine is not expected to come up until March 29th, the country report, which is obviously quite a while from now. What are the prospects or the possibilities if a sort of special session might be called within the council sessions, which I think we've seen in the past? I mean, is there any movement in that regard yet? Have you had any requests, or is that a possibility? And when would be the earliest that a special session within the council session on Ukraine could happen?
Yes, as I said before, a special session within a session, that's not possible. What the modalities allow, the procedure is, once a session started, it's an urgent debate. It's the same thing, but it's another procedural modality. And an urgent debate can take place as soon as the council decides to do so and has to make a decision according to the rules of procedure, which is a consensus or a vote with a majority of positive votes over negative votes. And that's for everything. And so we will see when the council starts and the dynamics. Thank you.
I mean,
And no, I haven't had any request or information on a decision of countries requesting to make an urgent debate when the council starts. So far, no information on that. Thank you.
If I may just add very briefly to that, Jamie, of course, once if we do receive any such request, of course, we'll let you know instantly. And it's our job in the Secretariat also to advise on when would be possible space within the very packed program as you have before you. So we would need to consult with the Bureau and the President, of course, as to find the optimum time to hold that. But we'll inform you of everything should that happen. We have a question now from Nick of the New York Times. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. Thank you and good morning. Sorry I can't be with you in person. I would have liked to join this session. Ambassador, there's a lot of talk about the politicization of the Council. We have issues like Xinjiang and Ukraine on the agenda. Obviously, that looms pretty large over the coming session. How much is that a concern of yours? And what is it that you can do or to kind of address that?
Thank you. Indeed, the politicization is a fact of the Council. But one thing is the politicization, another thing is the polarization. Human rights issues are many times political issues in a domestic agenda and in an international agenda. But we have a collective responsibility in the Human Rights Council to make the Council work, to strengthen human rights all over the world, and to apply the rules that we have to have the debates on human rights issues. So I expect that all members will behave with that collective responsibility, and the politicization, as long as doesn't polarize and paralyze the Council, is something that can be manageable through debates with mutual understanding and respect in the way to express our opinions. So I'm aware, but not worried, because I trust in the collective responsibility of the members of the Council and the observers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now we have Nina Larson of Agence France Presse.
Yes,
Go ahead, Nina.
Thank you for taking my question. Actually, first I wanted to just clarify, I think you said that for an urgent debate, you would need half of the states, the member states to agree. So does that mean that an urgent debate is more difficult to hold than a special session, which I think only needs a third of the countries? So I'd just like to clarify that. And then I wanted to ask about the politicization issue. Are you concerned that this might spark more of a crackdown on sort of civil society? What are you doing to avoid that? And have you seen any increase in that since ahead of the session? Thank you.
Yes, in the first question, yes, we need half of the membership to decide to have an urgent debate once a session has started. And that will be the case in case that thing comes. On the second, the NGOs, definitely the NGOs are a hard, essential part of the Human Rights Council. And the worries of the NGOs' participation is something that they themselves are worried because of the situation, and they will be participating in the Council with their full freedom of expression and opportunity to express their opinions. And states are used in the Council to listen to the NGOs' statements, and this the same way that the states used to listen to special rapporteurs and independent experts, regardless of that sometimes we would not perhaps all the time share views, that's the heart of the council. We are able to express and listen different views. And NGOs will have a very important role in this session and the whole year. And I intend to have a close relationship with NGOs because that's something absolutely essential to understand the importance of the role of NGOs in the council, but also domestically in each of our countries to collaborate with the state in developing human rights policies, institutions. So yes, it's going to be a very important part. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question now from Bayram of the Turkish News Agency.
Thank you, Rolando. Bayram Alto Anadolu Agency. Rolando, can you share with us the list of speakers Friday afternoon who will attend the council's high-level segment, because that will help us to make plans. And the other issue is also, as in other sessions, will there be new reports on countries such as Syria, Yemen, and Myanmar, and when? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Bayram, I did share of the last version of the list of speakers for the high-level segment. You should have in your inbox, was sent at 10 o'clock at the start of this press conference. That is the latest version, although I'm told that is even changed since then. So again, to all, a reminder, just take a look at the emails I send you and also the link where you can obtain through your own means the latest version. In terms of country reports, again, another reminder to take a look at this nice little booklet, the A to Z, all the countries, including Syria. There is a commission of inquiry that is presenting a report. Now, you mentioned Yemen. Also, Yemen is not, there's no report on Yemen this session. And I didn't hear the last country report you mentioned. Could you please repeat that?
Myanmar.
In fact, yes, there are 3 reports. Please, Ambassador.
Yes, we of course, Myanmar is part of this session, and we have 2 opportunities of interactive dialogues on Myanmar, that we will listen to the rapporteurs, and also we will listen to the High Commissioner of Myanmar.
Thank you, Ambassador. Christian, yes, go ahead. Question from German News Agency.
May I come back to the report on Xinjiang? Is the council interested in seeing this report? And are you asking Mrs. Bachelet to publish it at any time, or are you just sitting back and waiting for her to publish it at the time of her choosing? Thank you.
Thank you. The council addresses the issues that has in its agenda. We will have to wait for anything that means before the council, an encouragement for the council to make a decision or have an opinion. We don't have on the table a report of the High Commissioner on this to address or react yet. We will have to wait, and we will have to wait for that. And we will have the dynamics of every state will be what to propose to the council on how to address that report when it comes. And that will depend on each state. Of course, that doesn't mean that the situation of Xinjiang has not been raised in the past. We had the situation of Xinjiang addressed by different NGOs or countries in different statements in general debates. That's the basis of the council, the freedom of expression of each state or NGO to address any issue. But the thing that we have to understand is the good thing of the council is that no matter how important an issue is for the international community, the world opinion, we have tools in the council to address those issues through specific tools, like a report of the High Commissioner, a report of an independent expert, a country resolution, a universal periodic review, revision of a country. That's another tool which is very important, where a country's situation is put on the table. And for the first time ever, every country puts a situation on the table and gets an average, every country, an average between 200 and 300 recommendations by other member states and by NGOs to do something. So the tools are there. And the situation in Xinjiang has been addressed in different formats by member states or NGOs in different expressions, unilateral expressions. If we have the report, of course, that report will have the council addressing it the way that we have our tools to address.
Are you asking her why it is delayed? And are you asking her to publish it with a matter of urgency? Or is the council just hands off and just sitting back?
The Office of the High Commissioner has a full mandate to do the job, and she does it very well. And it's not for me as president to ask her to urgently put forward a report. It's her prerogative and to come to the council and have the report. And no, I haven't asked her urgently to give us a report. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as the president mentioned earlier, I would just direct that type of question on the High Commission report to the office directly to our colleagues working with the media section there. One more question from Antonio, please.
On the health measures that will be in the council, will masks still be mandatory, and do the attendees need to show a vaccination proof or a negative PCR?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but first, yes, the mask will still be mandatory for the time being. And second, no. Director of UNOC said no certificates to enter the Palais, or COVID certificates, or PCR tests, of course.
Maybe just to clarify also that it's not the council rules, it's the UNOG rules. So we heed that advice, of course. So whatever the Director General decides, we follow accordingly. I think we're finished. No further questions in the room or online. On that note, then, I'd like to thank you very much, Ambassador Villegas, for joining us, and to you, members of the press. We, Matt and Pascal here in the room, we're at your disposal. If you have any questions, you need any steers, don't hesitate. Have a good day.